All righty. So welcome everybody. Glad to have you here today. Um, excuse me. So let's talk a little bit about first of all, I want to remind, do we have anybody new who's on this morning? I was expecting a few people to join us. Just a reminder, if you haven't done so, to please um, go to our database and fill out the contact form so we have your contact information. It really helps to have phone numbers and email and all that sort of stuff. So just to jump in right into the program here. As you know, we were scheduled to have Sandeep here this morning, and just got a text from him that he had a family issue came up and will not be able to join us today. But just as good, Karen, just as good, not second stream, just as good. Karen Ziegler is here again with us and is going to give us an update on what's going on with the broadband office and the planning feed and digital equity planning and all that kind of good stuff. So Karen, I'm going to just turn it over to you.
Thank you, Steve. I appreciate it. So again, Sandeep apologizes. He had a family issue this morning and isn't able to attend. So I will do my best to kind of capture what he had intended to talk about today. So as we've reported before, we are in the midst of all of the planning for BEAD and digital equity. The digital equity plan is being drafted right now, and we are expecting a draft for review next week, and then there's a volume of information that we have to read through and get that ready for publication for public comment. We are expecting to release that for public comment sometime mid-October, but I do want to mention that ACA has submitted an extension request that has not been approved at this point, so we are not going to, we're not going to update that timeline until we actually get the approval from NTIA. As you know, we've had a little bit of staff changeover at ACA, and so we just want to make sure that we do a really good job, with this digital equity plan in coordination with the governor's office and the Digital Equity Institute, so we get the best document that we can for Arizona. As far as digital equity, we also have that position posted. I believe it's posted on Indeed, and I think Steve has shared that with all of you. So please, if you know people that are interested, have them submit a resume via
I think Karen and Sandeep are begging you, please.
I am, please. So I am doing my best to kind of fill in that area. I'm the first to admit I do not have, that background. And so it's such an important role, in all of this broadband deployment. So we really want to get someone good on board, to help. And it isn't just for the planning process. This is long-term for, the duration of all the work, that we're going to be doing. So that's digital equity. As far as the BEAD program, we have posted the 5-year plan. So we've got that task out of the way. And now we are fully engulfed in what we call the initial proposal, volume 1 and volume 2. Volume 1 is the challenge process. That we are going to release for public comment first. That hopefully will be the first part of October. Both volume 1 and volume 2 are due December 27th. So both require a 30-day comment period. So we're going to stagger volume 1 and volume 2 just to make sure that, we don't overload you and us as far as, getting those documents together. Volume 1, as I said, is the challenge process, but it also includes a list of community anchor institutions. Sandeep wanted me to ask all of you if you have community anchor institution list that you utilize in your organizations. We would love to get a copy of that list. What we're doing is compiling these lists from all these different sources, deduplicating it, and categorizing them the way NTIA has defined community anchor institutions. So I pulled up from the NOFO. A community anchor institution is defined as an entity such as a school, library, health clinic, health center, hospital or other medical provider, public safety entity, institution of higher education, public housing organization, community support organization that facilitates greater use of broadband service by vulnerable populations. And then it goes on to, describe the vulnerable populations. It was what we're calling covered populations. So that is the list that we're looking for. If you have one and are willing to share that, if you could send it to broadband@azcommerce.com. I will share that in the chat, or Steve can share that with you, and just go ahead and send those lists through. If you have them by name, address, and type, that would be great. If you don't have all the information, that's fine. Please just send it in anyway, and then we'll sort through it and add it to the greater list. So we want to caution people, though, that the BEAD programming requires us to prioritize unserved and underserved first. Once those definitions are covered through the BEAD funding, then if there's additional resources available, then we will take a look at funding the community anchor institutions that don't currently receive 1 gig of, or where 1 gig of service is not available. Let me clarify that. So as we all know, the 993 million is a lot of money, but it's not likely to cover everything with fiber to every, premise, including community anchor institutions. So there's a lot of work that's going to happen with the data analysis and the mapping to determine how best to distribute, the funding. But the first step is to capture the community anchor institution list, so we know what we're dealing with, and then we'll take that data and do the financial analysis from there.
Karen, if I can interrupt for a second, Molly's got her hand up. And then also, I believe in the NOFO, there was a list of anchor institutions that are eligible. And I think Sandy was going to send that to me. And then if you could, then I'll send it out to the task force.
I will do that. Yes, and that's the list I just read off, but I'll certainly send that to you so you can share that. Mala, did you have a question?
Yes, Karen. I was on a webinar where they mentioned that that community anchor institutions, they listed even a pharmacy in a Target store, for example, that they made a list of those institutions and those pharmacies as anchor institutions because they served. I know. And then tutoring organizations, they're like Mathnasium and Kuman and other places like that. Then they talked about apartment complexes, not just low-cost housing, and boys and girls clubs, senior citizen centers, and all of those. So I'm wondering, are we using those? Are we collecting those as well?
So that's a really great question, Mala, and it kind of goes back to what I was saying. I just want to caution that just because we put this list together does not guarantee funding for or providing fiber broadband to these locations. It is a compilation of a list, so we understand what we have in the state, so then we can make some decisions on if there's resources available, identifying which ones don't have a gig service today, and then seeing what we can fund. Like you said, the main community anchor institutions are defined as schools, libraries, health, public safety, police, fire, those kinds of things. And so you got to get through all of those. The ones that you have described, there is sentence in the NOFO that says an eligible entity may propose to NTIA that any additional types of institutions should qualify as a community anchor institution within the entity's territory. So that's pretty broad, and I think maybe the institutions that you are, describing may fall under that category. To be honest, I'm not sure if Arizona is going to have the resources to go that deep,
Exactly.
But with that said, if there's only one particular organization in a community that's able to provide, greater use of broadband service, which is the definition, then we probably need to take a look at it. But like the pharmacy and Target, I don't think that was designed to provide broadband to vulnerable populations and, the greater, so, it's hard, but some states will maybe define it that way.
Right.
That's the whole purpose of gathering the list.
That's and I entirely agree with you, because if it's a pharmacy in a Target somewhere in a rural area, then it could be, defined that way, but not, not in Chandler or Tempe or something. And the pharmacy is there today, gone tomorrow. It's not always there and in the same location.
Yeah, and I think the same. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I just didn't want us to spread ourselves too thin, trying to do this. But at the same time, if we're laying fiber and it is on the way, then maybe it could be a point of presence from where they can draw later, whatever the options are. But I just want to know at this stage, are we collecting even that kind of data?
If an entity has the data and wants to submit it, I would say go ahead. I wouldn't encourage you to go out and list every pharmacy that's in your community. It's a whole lot of work that I don't know would be, very useful. Cindy has her hand up. Let me call on Cindy and see if she's got something to add.
Yeah, just actually a point of reference from information I believe I got from Mala. Mala, did you say that only 2 libraries in the state have gig service?
Yes, I think that is true, but I'd verify it now. I think that was true when I checked the last time. That was a few months ago.
Few months,
yeah.
Right. I just, as a point of reference, just for to understand how many places have risen to the level to have gig service. That's 2 libraries out of the whole state is. So that just gives you an idea how uncommon it is.
True, it is. It's the affordability, not just the availability.
Right.
So,
right.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, yeah, I can speak on that from the city of Phoenix lens. None of our facilities have gig. Period.
So let me clarify that there's a difference between availability and affordability. So the NOFO says available. So if it's available and just not affordable, that's not going to qualify for a BEAD.
That's true. That's true. Because again, for schools and libraries, like Sherika pointed out, the schools don't have it. Most schools, none of them have it. The reason is also because they cannot afford their share after E-rate pays for the rest of it. So they will not subscribe to it.
Yeah. And I'd see Nicole posted the definition in the chat. Thank you, Nicole. And Nicole, do you have anything to add to this?
Yeah, Karen, I really appreciate your thorough understanding and, especially some of those tricky areas. It is about availability of service. So even if it's not subscribed by the school or library, if that service is available, then it's not eligible in that case. And as you can see, the NOFO is pretty expansive in terms of what types of entities are already included. So I think there's some confusion because states do have the opportunity to make the case for other types of anchor institutions that are not included on this list already. And so that's where, discussions around like where might the broader use of broadband be facilitated in a pharmacy or basketball court, or, places where people gather and make use of the internet. But of course, the state can consider all of that, and stakeholders are welcome, but you have to have justified reasoning. So you can't, as a blanket, say every single Minute Clinic in CVS is an anchor institution.
Right.
You'd also have to be specifically defining which locations, confirming their level of broadband availability, and making the justification about, maybe that CVS is the only location in town that could provide free Wi-Fi. That's more of a case than by virtue of the fact that it's a CVS with Wi-Fi. So it's a pretty lengthy task, but just hoping that we can have some clarification around it.
Yeah, thank you, Nicole.
Karen and Nicole. So a lot of times when we talk about anchor institutions, we talk about to and through. So is that part of looking at these anchor institutions, is who can actually provide? It's not just connecting those organizations, but how they're going to can and will serve their communities.
Well, so BEAD is already prioritizing at the household level. So the model of using funds to connect that anchor institution and then pulling that out to households, it's a little bit reversed in terms of the prioritization of BEAD already. But in the initial proposal, the state has to have a plan for connecting, 100% coverage using BEAD funds and otherwise, and getting creative. So we are going to see, I don't know if the state is going to adopt the language to and through, because they are already on the hook for the household level. But we do have to see a plan for 100% connectivity.
Any other questions? So any other questions for Karen?
So if I can just follow up a little bit, with that. So like I said, we're asking if you have lists, to please, submit them. We have a contractor that is going to assist with identifying, the level of service that's available. So if you have it, great. If you don't, that's okay. I think there is a template. I'm going to try to track that down, and then Steve, I can send it to you if someone doesn't have a format, to send that in. That would be great. But again, like I said, I can't stress enough that just because this that the list is compiled does not guarantee, that is the definition that Arizona is going to use, and that will relate in, funding, for that organization. It's just, another example is faith-based communities. That's just a massive list, and that alone would probably burn up all of the money that's available. And as Nicole has said, and we've said several times, the priority is the address level, residential, unserved, and underserved. We have to do that first before we go to the next tier.
Okay. John, you have your hand up.
I do. Thank you, Steve. Thanks, Karen. I saw a LinkedIn post that flew by and I didn't grab the information. Could you tell us a little bit more about the Governor's Interagency Council on Broadband and the various categories of things that the different agencies are going to be attacking, or is that within your billet?
I can give you, yes, I can give you some information. Let me pull up the slides. So the governor's office has convened an interagency and community broadband advisory council. Their first meeting was on Monday, and not a lot of action at that first meeting, other than introductions and just giving an update on the planning process, and then talking about some work groups and asking members to identify the work groups that they're interested in participating in. So the council is going to meet quarterly, but the intent is for those work groups to meet more often, and then to provide that feedback to the governor's office and ACA. So let me pull up the work groups here.
Karen, do you have some slide that you want to share?
I can.
You don't have to.
Yeah, like I
but-
said, I was just gonna read the work groups off real quick, and I can probably put them in the chat. And these work groups may change. That was something that was offered, to the council. Do these work groups work for you, or is there, additional work groups that members may want to get involved in? So the first one is infrastructure and permitting. The second one is mapping. The third one is digital inclusion. And then the fourth one is affordability. The fifth one is workforce. And then the sixth one is outreach. So those are the proposed work groups at this time. And so, like I said, their first meeting was Monday, so I don't have a whole lot more to report. But that is, I don't think there's a date set for the second meeting yet, but they'll meet quarterly. John, was that helpful, or did you have?
It is. I think if I can go through my LinkedIn feed quickly enough, there was somebody that posted pictures of some of the slides, and I saw that. Plus, I ran into the director of OEO, who I think has a responsibility for the workforce piece, and I think there's plenty of work that this group has done to contribute to this baseline, and maybe in the future will continue to contribute to it. So that's a good opportunity.
So
Yeah,
John,
and-
I actually sent to Karen and to Sandy the link to the document that we did back in 2020. As you know, that provides a good framework. Obviously, lots has changed since then, but still provides a great framework that may be helpful to that task force.
Yes, Steve, I was just going to mention, I did forward that to our partners, so they can review it and, just make, references back to that document, just like we did with the 5-year plan. It's just acknowledging some of the work that was done in the past, and then, either building on that or using that going forward. So that document has been shared.
Great, thank you. Any other questions for Karen? So a couple of quick things, and then Nicole, if you have anything else that you want to add. But the BEAD plan is on the ACA website. I've shared that link, and you're welcome to provide input. Secondly, having conversations with Sandeep and Karen, that I would like for this task force to host probably later, maybe October, a couple of sessions where we can actually, not outside of the Monday meeting, because we just don't have the time for that, but maybe actually even a 2-hour meeting where we actually go through in detail what's in the BEAD plan and digital equity, and an opportunity for people to provide input. So I'm not thinking a webinar. Webinar is just presentations, but with a real opportunity for people to share information, ask questions, and so forth. So if anybody would like to help me plan, and again, that will be in conjunction with AZBSN, the broadband office, and any others, of course, the state library, and any other organizations that want to help, and of course, to promote that. And we want to promote it as widely as possible. So just wanted to mention that. Okay. Any other questions or comments about this?
Steve, when you mentioned those sessions, there's different versions of these. As Karen is saying, the initial proposal is not going to be ready till December 27th. I don't know if you're talking about reviewing the 5-year plan or getting into this initial proposal. And then the digital equity plan, again, she says the earliest it'll be available is mid-October. It may be delayed if they get an extension. So you're going to have to, think about what time frame you're looking about.
So Henry, all of these documents that we talked about have a public comment period before the actual submission. So like the initial proposal, we talked about volume 1 and volume 2. The estimated date for the public comment period is October for volume 1 and November for volume 2. Again, we are just starting to put that timeline, together, but that's our estimate at this point. The plan is actually due December 27th, but we have to, by NTA requirements, do that public comment period.
All right, I forgot about that. That's right. Okay.
Yeah.
So,
Digital equity plan as well. There has to be a 30-day public comment period. Right now, our target date is October 16th. If that extension is approved, we may push that back a little bit just to ensure that we've coordinated all of those resources that we need to get into that plan. But
yeah, well, I guess what I'm saying though generally is, Karen, you probably should coordinate with Steve about what the ideal time is to have these sessions to provide
Yep.
the feedback.
That's a really good point, Henry. So
Yeah, we'll get together and kind of map out what the time frame is to do these sessions, and and what we should include when. So, but good point, Henry. Thank you. Other questions or comments for Karen?
So I'm also going to put in the chat the email address if you have any list that you want to forward to us.
And I'll, of course, also include it in the follow-up email, follow-up of the meeting. Okay, if nothing else for Karen, Nicole, do you have anything else other than what you've already shared?
Sure. So on that point of trying to inform everybody around the complicated bead process, all these different dates, as we've mentioned, and as I've discussed with you, Steve, I'll also be hosting an information session in my capacity as NTIA about all of the requirements involved in the initial proposal, and be available for some in-depth discussion. We get all sorts of questions from many stakeholders. So just making myself available for this group and for all of the different types of partners that we'll be inviting. That will be sort of a standalone, but of course, always in partnership with the broadband office and their aims as we get closer to public comment and beyond. So the purpose is as many intervention points and opportunities for people to get educated in this process as possible. And I'm certainly coordinating with Sandeep and Karen as we plan more public outreach engagement with the office too. So there's going to be a lot more information. So hopefully when you're all speaking with your communities and the people you work with, you'll feel very informed about how to line up these expectations and what's involved. So I just wanted to make that clear. I also posted in the chat the spreadsheet template for the anchor institutions.
Thank you.
If you are interested in compiling a data set that you think the state may be missing, you're welcome to use this template. It's actually exactly what's required for the state to submit to NTIA. So that I'm happy to talk offline about some of those columns because they may not be applicable to everybody. So I also put my contact in there for you. Karen gave us an overview. I shared some updates from NTIA yesterday at the ATEC meeting, but I'll go ahead and do a quick overview of that for this group. The NOFO number 2 for NTIA's Tribal Broadband Connectivity Program is open, and that's been posted. That window will close January 23rd. This is $1 billion in new funding from the Infrastructure Act that's going to funding broadband deployment programs for tribal governments, tribal colleges, and tribal organizations. I don't see any of those representatives on the call, but there's certainly partnerships that are available or other ways to support some of those communities. That funding will also fund standalone broadband use and adoption pieces. So where that's a little bit of a departure from NOFO number 1, but they can fund basically digital inclusion projects. The other difference is that standalone planning projects are no longer eligible as part of NOFO 2 because there will not be a NOFO 3. So funding planning doesn't make a lot of sense. I'm also going to share a link to the methodology for the BEAD high cost areas. And this is pretty important for this group. Well, one, because the this definition of high cost and of area actually was used in 10% of the allocation formula for the BEAD program. And so this is an explanation of how NTIA made that decision, but also importantly for this group, these exact identified high cost areas are what the FCC is using for expanding the affordable connectivity $75 a month discount. It's the same, both agencies have coordinated in identifying and confirming these groups. So that's of interest to this group, and I'm happy to chat more about that if people have questions.
Yeah,
And
Nicole, you might just want to clarify. I think most people probably know about the change in ACP and the $75 for high cost areas. So you want to comment on that?
Sure. So households that are located in these high cost areas, as identified by NTIA and confirmed by the FCC, are now eligible for a $75 discount through ACP. Before, the $75 was available for tribal households, and $30 off for qualifying households. And now in that, with this expanded definition, it increases it to more households. It's not a guarantee that they would get a full $75, but for, as I understand, new subscribers where that service is available at that tier can now qualify.
And Nicole, if I can add, for the high cost areas, NTIA has also said that those areas are not required to make a match. So for B, there's a 25% matching requirement. So when we take out those high cost areas that are no longer required to make a match, it kind of changes the funding structure that ACA was looking at. And so that's why it's so important to do the financial analysis of the premises that for unserved and underserved, and identify which ones are high cost, because we can't use that additional 25% match that will like stretch the dollars a little bit. So all of that work will be underway here as we develop, this initial proposal.
Exactly. And more reason for everybody to get involved in the public comment period for the initial proposal as well. And, for those who are interested, there's some interesting models from other states as well who've begun posting their drafts of Volume 1. We've seen, I think, one posted for Volume 2 from the state of Virginia as well. So as you prepare to engage in Arizona's process, you can take a look at some of they're all unapproved, but they are publicly posted, so you can kind of see what other states are considering.
You know how many high cost locations there are in Arizona out of? I'm just wondering how you get a handle on how big this is, and I know the ACP program itself they were talking about running out of funding by mid-March. If you expand these subsidies, will that make it run out, assume quite a bit faster? So what percent of the locations are high cost?
Henry, I don't have that data. I believe ACA does, and but you make a really good point. When you expand the availability of the ACP program, there's a limited amount of funding, but I know there is just a massive amount of work and advocacy being done today, to extend that program and to, increase the funding. So I think that's really important for everyone on this group through whatever organizations that you're associated with, to continue to advocate, for that program.
Yeah, Henry, I don't know that I have the number of households at the ready, but I'm just going to post the allocation. So this is the percentage of those high cost areas proportionate to all states and territories that Arizona received. but it's not the numbers. I'm gonna have to dig that up for you.
And this is Mark Goldstein. There is a company called ACA Connects, and they partner with a mapping company, Cartesian. They have state-by-state, fairly detailed analysis of the bead allocations and the impact, including estimated costs to service unserved and underserved locations. I just posted the link to that whole collection and to the Arizona specific PDF deck on bead allocations. So some details there of interest.
So if I could caution, thank you, Mark, for posting that, but I just want to caution that ACA is doing their own analysis with software and using probably the same information that is available in this particular link, but providing much more detail, because some of this national analysis really didn't take into consideration some of the uniqueness of states, including Arizona, with terrain and different things. So it's a good high level target of cost, but Arizona is going to do a very specific Arizona analysis. So that
Understood. Just it is something available now, but caution is recommended on that kind of source. Absolutely.
Yeah, that's
anything else?
That's only for fiber deployments, right, Mark? They're estimating what the cost is for providing.
Right. And you're right. High cost areas will have more flexibility depending how the state chooses to utilize it to allow or encourage wireless in licensed spectrum. There still remains the bugaboo about wireless using unlicensed spectrum in the whole equation.
Okay, anything else for Karen or Nicole? If not, let's move on. So Sharon, if I can put you on the spot, I see Sharon Mativa. I believe, Sharon, you're with EDA, if I'm not mistaken. Haven't seen you in a long time. Do you have anything you'd like to share with us? Or at least introduce yourself? Sharon, are you there? Okay. So moving on. So Mala, I know you're going to have an update in a little while, but if you want to talk about the approval of Ana Gomez for the FCC.
Sorry, I was on mute and didn't realize that. It always happens, right? At least once on every call. The news from FCC is that Ana Gomez was confirmed as the 5th commissioner on September 7th. The confirmation fills all 5 commissioners' seats for the first time in 2 years, and her term will run through 2026. Of course, the fact is that this could be short-lived. There is a Democratic majority, but this could be short-lived because the Senate has to confirm Commissioner Starks, whose renomination will happen in January, and otherwise he'll have to leave, and then FCC will revert back to the 2-2 split of Democrats and Republicans. Ana Gomez's priorities, as mentioned in her Senate hearing, net neutrality, that she's going to open that up, and that could take a long time to get through, but that is a priority for her. School bus Wi-Fi is a priority again. That is also that's been a priority for a while now, waiting discussion and voting. E-rate hotspots for the ECF program. There was some Republican opposition, but this might move that forward. The cost of the program and all that and the funding of it is still to be addressed. And cybersecurity is also another priority. And hopefully that pilot program that was proposed, the 200 million pilot program that was proposed will go through. But there has been a lot of discussion on that, saying shorten the timeline. Let's not make it a 3-year pilot program. Let's try a year and make sure that whatever data we gather at that time can be reused quickly, because the need is now. So that's Ana Gomez. Oh, there's one more thing that that is a priority, but probably not going to be discussed, and that is the USF. And that's a whole nother discussion. We'll talk about that when time permits, or when the agenda permits.
Okay. Thanks, Mala. Appreciate that.
Back to you.
So a couple of other things, just again, a reminder that the that the broadband office is looking for a digital equity program manager. I've included the link in our announcements of this meeting, and will again follow up after this meeting.
Okay.
So I just want to remind you about that. And let's see what else. So Kirk and Mark, you want to talk about the Tech Council Smart City coming up next week?
Mark's billion-dollar fireside chat with Sandeep.
Right, I just posted what we have been posting, the top level description. So this is the 7th year the Tech Council's done a Smart City and IoT event. It runs from 1 to 6 p.m. It is on site only at ASU Skysong in Scottsdale, but Kirk has made arrangements to capture the video from my fireside chat with Sandeep. And we will make that available in the days following next Tuesday's event. There is an AZBSN discount code, so I believe the nominal attendance fee is $40 for Tech Council members. That does include ATIC board members, and $55 for members of the public who are not Tech Council members, minus $10 for the discount code. Kirk is moderating one of the 2 panels and now has information about the keynote. Kirk, you want to give a little more color on that? Or not? Anyway, the program is up at the link I provided and registration from there. So Steve, are you manning a table at the event? Are you coming up?
I am coming up. I don't know if I'm manning a table. I haven't heard from Kirk if that's going to happen or not. So, but I am planning to be there. And while we're mentioning that, it's a good opportunity, since we do, all of our meetings virtually, but it is a good opportunity for people to just come and meet other folks, particularly folks who have been participating in the task force, and could get to know each other personally. So I encourage you to attend, if for no other reason besides Mark's fireside chat and other kinds of things. But I'd encourage you to attend that conference. And I want to say one thing before I forget, is that I do, as you know, I do download and share the chat. But if you want any of the files that are in chat, and I will also download those and make them available. But if you want those files, you can't get those from the chat once I download it. So if you want them, you need to do that now, and I will stay online for a while. And you can also save the chat too. Again, I do that and share the chat. But if there's anything you want, you can download the chat and make sure that you download the files. Okay.
Thanks, Steve and Mark. And I did find the mute button finally. Tim Romer is a keynote speaker. Tim Romer is the past chief of Homeland Security for the state of Arizona, has a long history in security, ex-CIA, ex-White House, ex. Amazing guy, amazing speaker, and he will be delivering the keynote. A lot of security issues, obviously, with smart cities and IoT devices, and the more devices we have, the more security issues we have. So it should be a great event. And I still don't have any feedback formally on a table for you, Steve. And I see Alina in here asking about a table also. There's nothing formal on the registration. They sell sponsorships that are very pricey. But I'm still working on that.
Okay. Well, I'll wait to hear from you. Okay. Anything else? Okay, so moving on, Mala and Aaron, Holly, you guys have things that you want to share with us, please? Mala, you want to start?
Where do you want me to start?
Wherever you want to start. I know you don't usually have much to share, but
yes, you know, I did share a lot yesterday with the ATIC meeting. One of this was Diana Gomez, news, but also I wanted to share a little bit about the USF. USF is the Universal Service Fund, and that's the fund that that's the pot of gold from which E-rate, high cost program, the Lifeline program, and rural health care programs are funded. The E-rate program, as you all know, funds schools and libraries for their internet and connectivity equipment. The high cost program fund subsidizes the deployment and operating costs for telecom companies that seek to serve customers in rural parts of the U.S. The Lifeline program subsidy is the benefit program for low-income customers, and it provides phone and internet services for $9.25 per month. That's the Lifeline program. It is very, very basic, but it does provide that service. The rural healthcare program subsidizes eligible healthcare providers like hospitals, community health centers in the remote parts of the country. The fund itself is in jeopardy because some conservative activists claim that it is unconstitutional and it's a tax on the phone services, because it's the phone service providers that are collecting this money, the landline service providers that are collecting this subsidy money and paying it into the USF funds. And from the USF funds, it's distributed through these 4 channels. The contribution factor has risen remarkably in the last few years. And the reason is because many of us are cutting back on our landline. So the landline share is the contribution from us to that fund is decreasing. Hence, the contribution that the service providers have to make to the pot is increasing. So this is therefore, of course, they are fighting it, and that they are a big lobby against this. And there was an appeal in the 11th Circuit Court, and it was ruled against, the judge ruled against the appeal, but now it's gone back to the 5th and 6th Circuit Courts where the appeal is being heard now. So the very existence of the USF program is under threat. And there is a lot of concern about it. Senator Duhan has voiced concerns of the financial stability of making the landline pay for this service and wants it spread out. And USF.
Okay.
And
that's your box on the left. That's the internet.
can you?
I know.
mute?
I'm in.
okay.
Oh.
Teresa, you need to mute. Teresa Galt, you need to mute.
9 o'clock.
Thank you.
Let's go. You want to go do the meeting together?
Yeah.
Okay. Where's
Okay,
the?
I'm trying to find her here. Oh, there we go.
Okay.
Okay,
Okay.
go ahead, Mama.
So, thank you. So Politico had an article on the USF. It's a really good article, and I'm going to post it in the chat for you to look at. And this is a really big concern right now. The very existence of this is a concern. And next, we have to think about the contribution factor. Shelby has also done a report on the USF contribution reform, and I'll post that link. They done a study and published the study as well, and have good suggestions on improving the base of the contribution. Now, I'm not quite sure this is going to make it to the FCC. They're rather reluctant to take it up right now because it's so political and controversial. So I just want you to be aware that we're talking about all these universal service money, and who knows how long it's going to exist. So back to you, Steve. There's one more thing I wanted to mention, and that is, and probably Erin would talk about it more in detail. We do have an event coming up on September 21st at Tuba City. It is our telehealth event. It's Health Connect, as the program is called, and we will have a demo of the equipment, the telehealth equipment that we have, and a lot of other things, vendors having their tables there. We are trying hard to get the lines. We're still working on it, to do an eye screening there, a dentist to come and do some dental checkups and screening, and the local health service providers also to have a table there to talk about their services. So back to you, Steve, or to Erin, if you want to elaborate.
Questions for Mala? So Erin, anything you want to share?
Yes, thank you, Mala, for talking about the Tuba City event. We're super excited about that. That's coming up on Thursday, the 21st. And then following closely on its heels, on Tuesday, the 26th, the following week, we are going to be supporting the Navajo County Library District, which was one of the ACP Outreach grant recipients with their first event. They are hosting a community gathering where they'll be sharing resources from the library, as well as information about ACP. Their tactic on the ACP outreach, I think, is really unique, because they are directly tying it to digital navigators who will pick up the digital literacy skills training and all of that directly with the ACP signups. So we're really excited to be supporting the library district on that. Let's see, what else? I'm not sure if I don't want to steal Elena's thunder talking about Digital Inclusion Week, but I'm also very excited about that. So I'm just really quick going to mention that we as in the State Library are providing some ideas around programming to our libraries for Digital Inclusion Week through a programming kit that is linked on the Connect Arizona website, and I'm happy to drop a link if anyone would like to take a look at that. A couple of our partners in that work, of course, are also doing events and offering programming that week as well. And so soon we will have a list of all of those events through the AIDN website as well. Oh, okay. I will share that. Bye. Thank you. And so those are the next kind of big things that are coming up. Any questions or comments around that? Otherwise, I will turn it over to Holly for anything else.
I think Mala and Erin have it all covered. Thank you.
Okay. So Erin, Elena's gone because there's another meeting going on right now. So she dropped off for that. So just FYI.
Yes, I saw her message.
Okay.
Here, let me just drop really quick. This is the link to the Digital Inclusion Week page on Connect Arizona. And if you scroll down, you'll see a link to download the programming kit. If anyone has difficulty with it, let me know. It is a Google Drive doc, and I know some folks sometimes have difficulty with Google Drive at their work, but so then we'll also have a list of all of the events and whatnot, which will live on the AIDEN website soon.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
And Steve, in that light, I did post again, and you're carrying now in your announcements, the Digital Equity Institute's Digital Inclusion Celebration. That's a virtual event on October 3rd at 10 a.m.
Yep. And I did include that, and it's always on my list of things to get to, Mark. But thank you.
Right.
One more thing,
Okay.
I'm sorry, just since Elena won't be able to share it herself, she is on the NDIA planning committee for for Digital Inclusion Week. So if your organization does have any specific questions about how to engage, she would be a great resource for that.
Okay. Thank you. Anything else? Janet's not here. So you guys have already shared anything you wanted to talk about regarding the telehealth and projects? Already done? Okay. So Karina is not here today. Just FYI that the Office of the Arizona Department of Education has changed the Office of Digital Teaching and Learning to the Office of Educational Technology. And I don't want to say anything more about that. I'll wait. Hopefully she'll be here in the next couple of weeks, and we'll be able to hear from her. So moving on, Cindy, do you want to talk about what's happening with AIDEN?
Sure, let me get my camera on here. Sure. So AIDEN, the Arizona Digital Inclusion Network, we support and amplify and provide networking opportunities for community leaders interested in advancing digital inclusion within their communities. So if anyone would like to join us, we meet every other Thursday, and I can put my email in the chat, and you can ask me for the link to the meeting. We've also got a website, and yeah, we're working on Digital Inclusion Week, supporting Digital Inclusion Week programming, like Aaron talked about. We're not doing anything specific ourselves, except one event that we have engaged a fellow who is a 4-H tech change maker from Nogales, Arizona, who's been doing great work working with older adults and digital literacy. Cooperative Extension and 4-H are really present in rural communities, including tribal lands across Arizona. So we're thinking this pilot that this fellow did was so successful, we're thinking it makes a lot of sense to see what we can do to increase capacity perhaps for that. And I wanted him to have a chance to tell his story. So I sent that out via email to a lot of people. I think I sent it to the link to Steve so he can send it to this group. And like Aaron said, we will have a listing of all the Arizona offerings for Digital Inclusion Week forthcoming on the website, the AIDEN website. And that's about all I have for now.
Okay, thank you. Yep. I'm sorry Michelle dropped off earlier. I wanted to talk about what's happening with Pima County. But we'll get her on at a future meeting.
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
Hey, Rory, I don't think you're here today, are you? I think he's not here today. So just a couple of things that Mark had mentioned already. Others have mentioned. So on November the 2nd, there'll be the 8th annual Cyber Southwest Symposium. It's going to be down here in Tucson at the Science and Tech Park out here at U of A Science and Tech Park down here in Tucson. I put the link information into my email, and it'll be a really good event. The keynote is going to be Ryan Murray, who you probably all met with Homeland Security. So it'll be a good event. It's free. And again, I put that information in my email announcement. And then Mark already mentioned the Digital Equity Institute celebration. Kirk, I know you want to say something about the SciTech Institute, STEM and Innovation Summit. Are you still there? Okay. I'm sorry, go ahead, Mark.
Steve, I'm going to go ahead and post that you've carried my announcement now in your chat for that STEM and Innovation Summit. I'm not sure if there is a cost to attend that, and I'm not sure what that cost is because you have to go through the first parts of the registration to get to see the ticket pricing.
Okay.
But that is at the Arizona Science Center for a full day. It's usually a rich program, and there is a link there for those that want to submit proposals and be a speaker of some sort at that event. They are open to speaking proposals, encouraging them.
Okay, thank you, Mark. Any other announcements?
And sorry about that, Steve. I was running around the ranch and couldn't find the mute button.
Okay.
But yeah, Mark hit it well, and we'll have a lot more information next week on that also.
Okay.
Steve?
Yes, go ahead, Mom.
This is Mala. Yeah, I wanted to talk quickly about some conversations that I've been having with about cybersecurity.
Okay.
You introduced Mark Kelly from Fortinet, I think last AZBSN or a couple of AZBSNs ago. And he reached out about the security awareness training that they have, and they were willing to do that. He mentioned in the meeting that they were willing to do that for school personnel, but now they've included library staff as well to do it free. So this is, as the title says, it's security awareness training. They have a package and that can be used by the staff to train again, to retrain others. It's on staying safe, like being aware of weak passwords, and the difference between a weak password and a strong password, phishing, how do you recognize bad actors, multi-factor authentication and things like that. So it's a whole suite of training that they have available. I've also been looking around for other such training, and merlot.org has some training. I'll put those links in the chat. Skillscommons.org also has some free training, and CAST, C-A-S-T, all caps, CAST.org also has trainings available. So, this is something that we need to talk about, see which ones are better. I have not had a chance to evaluate them, but I've only been looking around for trainings that we could put together as a part of, as preliminary work for the cybersecurity team that you are setting up.
So Mala, just a reminder that actually for about 4 weeks, we had presentations about cybersecurity resources. So CISA is offering, cybersecurity training, and a number of other organizations that presented to us, and they're all providing resources for free. So there's a lot of stuff out there. We certainly don't need to recreate the wheel, but I'm glad to hear that you followed up with Fortinet, and that hopefully they're going to be a benefit.
Right. Yeah, they were really excited about working with library staff and spreading the training, and going deeper into the community to do the training. Thank you for bringing them on.
So the last thing I just wanted to remind you, and I've been including this in a lot of our information, but if you're looking for funding for your organization or your community, that the Arizona Economic Recovery Center grants resources is a great place to find both funding opportunity resources and also if you need to have help with your planning, grant writing, etc., that they do have free resources available, consultants that work for them directly or that they contract with. And so it's a great resource that really encourage you. You know, we're hearing about all this government funding, but there's a lot of other funding out there to support particularly smaller organizations, and particularly for the digital equity and so forth. So I encourage you to check them out on a regular basis. And with that, anything else? Any other announcements that people have?
Yes, Steve, it's Andy. Going back
Yeah,
to
Andy.
the grants you just mentioned, you may want to get on their website. They send out information about grants weekly. So that's a great source for grant information.
Yep. And speaking of great source for grant information is Andy Sinclair, who sends me stuff all the time, and I try to get that included in our newsletter also. So thank you, Andy, for that.
Sure thing.
Anything else? Anything for the good of the order? Okay, so I'm going to stop recording, and if anybody wants to stay online and kibitz for a few minutes, or else we're going to be done for the day. I do want to cut it a little bit short because I'm going to try and jump on the on the League of Cities and Towns meeting that's going on right now.